Welcome to the Moon Tribe podcast. I'm Simona, your host. I'm here to inspire heart-led entrepreneurs and conscious leaders to follow their purpose and create a life of freedom, wealth, and magic. Welcome back, tribe. I hope you're keeping well as we're moving through these pretty powerful times on the planet. And I know that many of us have been feeling this eclipse season. There's been definitely a lot of shedding and layers of letting go that we've been asked to look at. And as I've been sharing, we had the lunar eclipse in Libra just 2 weeks ago. And today, on the day when I'm releasing this episode on Monday, the 8th of April, 2024, we are having a big cosmic event, which is the total solar eclipse in Aries. A total eclipse is more rare than a partial eclipse. And it means that the moon will come over the sun, completely covering the sun. So the sun will become eclipsed and covered by the moon for around 4 minutes. And then the moon is moving further. And for that to happen, it needs to be really a certain alignment of the sun and the moon, so that the moon, which is much smaller than the sun, appears to be the same size as the sun and actually completely covering the sun. It's a powerful big event, and energetically that really represents a complete reset. So we are starting a completely new chapter, and it's in the sign of Aries. So Aries season, we've been talking about leadership also in these last episodes. And today we're going to go even further, how we can really use this energy, and especially this rebirth of Aries, which is a very powerful sign. And I'm going to be talking about how you can take bold and scary action in your business and in your life, and why this is important. And personally, for me, it's also a big one. I have quite a bit of this Aries energy, as my sun is conjunct to Mars in Capricorn. So I actually have a bit of this fire myself. And I think it has helped me to take bold, courageous action in my life and maybe think about it afterwards. So the question we will explore today is a really big one. We're going to be talking about fear. And is fear holding you back from creating your best life? And of course, there are so many layers in which fear is impacting us and impacting our life and impacting our business. And I would love to use the time today just to shine a light on it and become more aware about the role of fear and how we can channel a bit more of this warrior energy of Aries to support us to actually go for it. So we're going to be looking at maybe in some areas you're procrastinating, right? You're not even getting started with your business or with the next project. Or maybe you just hit a plateau and you're staying in your comfort zone and you're really feeling stuck. So often it has to do with fear. And many of my clients, when I'm working with them, we uncover the layers and we're able to actually transform it. So we're going to be looking at where are you avoiding what you know needs to be done, because freedom lies on the other side. As I mentioned, this is tied in with the total solar eclipse in Aries, where we are really collectively starting this fresh new chapter. It's like, let's go. And Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. It's like this fire sign is about moving forward, taking action, and it's the sign of the warrior. So we can really connect with this warrior energy, which is very powerful and very courageous and very bold. And it's about owning our personal power. It's about our sovereignty. So staying in our power instead of giving it away. I've been speaking about that in the last episodes. And another thing I need to also mention, that this eclipse is not only such an easy one, a new beginning in Aries, because this solar eclipse, we have the sun and moon aligning, and they are also aligning to the exact minute, to the exact degree and exact minute. In astrology, this is all measured. They are aligning with the healing planet Chiron. And Chiron is said to be the wounded healer. He's represented by the centaur, and there's a whole mythology around how he actually gets shot and how he has this deep wound. And Chiron represents really our old trauma, our old wound from our childhood, our inner child. So very deep work. So this can resurface in this time. And we are moving through a healing crisis. We are moving through a crisis when maybe we start to feel wounded, we start to feel not strong enough, we start to feel that we can't handle it. And we also have the opportunity to heal on a deeper level. So there is this flavor of the eclipse, which is also going to ask us to dig deep. So I want to bring that to your awareness, if you're noticing it, that old stories, maybe old limitations are playing out for you. And then just be aware and see how you can work through it, because the aim of this eclipse is really to help us step into a new empowered version of yourself. How can you transmute and alchemize and heal these old wounds? Some of these wounds, they will stay with us forever. But are we going to give them the power to control our life? Or are we going to do the work to be able to heal them and maybe find the treasure, understand the lesson, and then that helps us to really own our power in a much bigger way? So this is, of course, deep work, but those of you who've been on this journey, you will understand what I mean. Something very interesting that has been brought to my awareness is that we are also in such a powerful time on the planet at the moment. These eclipses are also just accelerating what is happening, is that the frequency on the planet is rising. We are also experiencing these strong solar flares. Many people are feeling it, and it's literally upgrading our system. And what that means is that many of us who are star seeds, we are being activated right now. So I will maybe do a whole other episode about what it means to be a star seed. But if you heard about being a star seed, and if you maybe identify with being a star seed, what that means is that dormant parts of our DNA are actually now being activated through this high frequency energy. And what is exciting about it is that more and more of us in the spiritual community, in the conscious community, we are starting to remember our mission. We are starting to remember, why are we here on this planet? What is going on? We're starting to tune in to our bigger purpose, to our mission, and we start to take action on it. So it's about remembering why you are here on Earth in these powerful times. And once you have this mission, once you know this bigger purpose, it's like a fire that's ignited within you. So there's something you need to do with it. And those of you who have experienced it, you know. And so for me, coming back to this quality of the warrior, I think it's very interesting. In the beginning of the year 2024, I heard someone I'm following saying that in 2024, light workers need to become light warriors. Light workers need to become light warriors. And I was a little bit like, wow, what does that mean? And the way I see it is that many of us have been light workers for decades, and it's now time to step into a whole nother level of empowerment and whole other level of focus and clarity, and really being on the mission and also standing our ground. Because I think, as many of us are aware, these are times where also a lot of darkness is rising on the planet. The light is increasing and the shadow is increasing. So here we are. And so for me, this warrior quality is about being prepared. And I'm also a yoga teacher, so I've been practicing yoga for many, many years. I've been studying yoga. And what I love in the yoga tradition, we work with the warriors, right? We have warrior 1, warrior 2, Virabhadrasana. In the yogic tradition, there is also this understanding that we are embodying a warrior quality. So there's a sense of training, of being prepared, of strengthening your body, of strengthening your mind, of being ready, being clear. And for me, this type of warrior, a warrior of light, needs to protect what is sacred, needs to stand up for your values, needs to stand up for the values you believe are important in the world. Because as we know, sometimes we need this inner strength, because not everyone is unfortunately lovely and has only your best interests in mind. And as we're going through these times of the Great Awakening, there's this very unsettling realization. And if you've been through it, you understand what I mean, is that there are also forces here on the planet that don't have the best interests of humanity in mind. There's also a dark element, there is a negative agenda. And if we are just compliant and in this people pleasing I was talking about and saying yes, 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 giving our power away, we are going to suffer. So as we're moving through this time of awakening, it's about connecting to this inner power and this ability to stand up and stand in our sovereignty. So I feel that is a big theme that is going to be activated with this eclipse. And so, as conscious business owners, as conscious entrepreneurs, we have a very important role to play in this, because we are literally bringing out the light. We are working with people. We are supporting people. We are empowering people. Whatever you might be doing, you are sharing the light. That's just what we do. So there's also this idea with Aries, it's about spiritual activism. And there's like this preparedness. There's this being willing to stand up. And that might be, of course, walking on the street in a demonstration, or maybe your activism is joining a worldwide meditation to raise the frequency on the planet, or sending healing to the planet. So there's many different ways that we can be in activism. And for me, that's also this idea of, in the Hindu tradition, those of you who are familiar with all the beautiful gods and goddesses, there's the goddess Durga, and she's very powerful. Durga is the one who is said to be invincible. And there is the story that there's a particularly difficult demon that is creating a lot of misery in the world and a lot of suffering. Many of the gods try to kill this demon and they don't succeed. So in the end, they come to visit Durga and say, Durga, can you help us? We need your help. And everyone gives her one of their weapons. So Durga is holding in each hand one of the weapons from everyone, from Vishnu, from Shiva, from Surya. She's holding the weapons, she's riding a tiger, and she's going into battle with the demon. And she's the only one who actually manages to slay this demon. And so there's this focus, there's this clarity. Then we become invincible. And that is what Durga represents. So this is this warrior of the light, standing up to protect from the demon. And the demon might be outside, but often it's also an internal demon, an internal regressive pattern that is holding us back, and we try to overcome it again and again, and we haven't succeeded. So with this energy of Durga, we can overcome anything, and we can really evolve to the next level. So there's this understanding that we need this power also for protection. This being a warrior who protects is like the lioness who protects her cubs. This is the warrior quality we're talking about. And for me, I also think about a samurai who is practicing, and there's this incredible sense of presence and being really prepared in the moment, being very precise, being very clear, being very focused, and not just reacting unconsciously, but there's a more conscious responding. No fight is needed because the battle has already been won within. So this is the quality we want to cultivate and really unleash in these times, each one of us. Once we are connected with this warrior power, we can really show up in a completely different way in our life. And for me, I've been studying the archetypes. That's been a really inspiring and powerful part of my own journey. And I also work with my clients on it because archetypes are very interesting patterns in our psyche. I also created a course about the archetypes where I speak about universal archetypes that we all have. And one of the universal archetypes is the victim. So each one of us has this blueprint of the victim. And when we are in this victim consciousness, then things are happening to us and we are not really in charge. We can't defend ourselves. We are afraid. And so when we want to heal this victim consciousness, which is such a big one, I think for so many of us, it can really hold us back. For me, it's been a huge journey of feeling sorry for myself. I can't do it. And how long are you going to stay in this story? So the medicine for the victim is to step into our warrior. And the warrior says, I take the power back. Let's do it. Where there's a will, there's a way. Let's go. So that's the energy. Can you feel it? So that's also something we really need to cultivate in our business, because there will be obstacles, right? And we will need to tap into this source of strength to keep going. And even when things are tough, move forward. That is a very important part of our leadership as well, and of actually creating a business over long term. If we immediately give up, we're not going to get anywhere, because this journey of entrepreneurship is a long-term game. So let's talk about fear. And fear is such a big one. I could talk about it for the whole day. But I think fear is just such a big one for all of us. And let's just normalize it. It's okay if you feel afraid. It's okay if you feel scared of showing up in bigger ways in your business. But what is the case about fear, and I like this translation that says fear is false evidence appearing real. So in my opinion, of course, there is a fear that absolutely is keeping us safe. It's a fear to protect us. It's a fear that maybe tells me, don't run in front of the cars in the middle of a highway because it might not be healthy, right? So there's a healthy fear which is keeping us safe and which is making sure we are protected. It's a survival instinct. And in our modern day world, there are actually very few situations that are really such a life and death situation, luckily. There are scary moments, but often it's about maybe social anxiety or the fear of being embarrassed in front of others. Many of us are experiencing fear of failure. What if I start something and what if I fail? Fear of success, the responsibility, can I hold it? Fear of judgment, what are others gonna say if I become so visible or if I make so much money? Fear of being ridiculed, fear of outshining others around us, fear of not being good enough. That is for all of us. I would say the baseline of it is that we are afraid that on some level we are inadequate, we can't do it, we're not good enough, we don't have what it takes, etc. So I think that is a storyline that is just part of the human experience and plays out in different ways for everyone. But I just want you to know you're not alone, and all the people who have inspired you and achieved something you admire, they have it as well. There's no one who doesn't have it. And it's our choice. Will I allow the fear to hold me back from actually creating what I want to create, from following my mission, from doing my soul work? Or am I going to act in the face of fear? One of my favorite lessons around this is feel the fear and do it anyway. Feel the fear and do it anyway. And so there's this part of feeling the fear, right? It's uncomfortable. It has a physical impact. And so also nowadays, I would say, to give it a bit more context, I would not suggest to just push through and force yourself and just suppress the fear. Nowadays, I would say understanding fear in a bit better way. So fear is triggering or is triggered in the oldest part of our brain, which is also called the reptile brain. This is a part of us that is really interested in our survival. And this is the part of us that has to keep us safe. It really doesn't like change very much because it's unpredictable. And it controls our vital functions, which means it controls our nervous system and all the biorhythm that is going automatically, like our digestion, our blood flow, etc. So the entire nervous system is controlled by this old part of the brain, the amygdala. So what happens when we are afraid is that we have physical symptoms. We might start sweating, feeling hot. Maybe our throat feels blocked. Maybe we can't focus. And so that has to do with the nervous system being activated. And when the sympathetic nervous system gets triggered, that is the part of us that is about fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. We go into an autopilot. We go into survival mode. Yeah. And so what is very important in our life, and especially as entrepreneurs, because there are many moments that can trigger that, right? That we learn to regulate our nervous system. We learn to soothe ourselves. We learn to soothe the body in a way that instead of being on crazy mode, we can calm ourselves down. And there are many beautiful tools, and it's about supporting yourself with your tools so you can act in the best possible way, even in a situation that feels scary, that might trigger this response for you. But we must not allow fear to stop us. So I would say that is the baseline of the message. And I was looking back, and it's actually really interesting that I have been on this journey already for a long time, and also thinking about fear. So back in the days, I was still working in the corporate world, and I was a designer and art director working in the creative industries. I spent a lot of time in London working there. And basically, I spent a lot of time in front of the computer. It's a more introverted activity. And I was actually also very shy. So I was happy to communicate, but I was also very shy, especially when it comes to public speaking. That was not really my thing, to be in the center of attention for everyone. But what I did, and I remember also, I think I read some self-development books that inspired me. And I decided to, whenever I would go to an event, an industry event or a conference, they always ask in the end, does anyone have any questions? And many people are like, no, not me. And of course, me too. I was like, no question, blank. I don't even know what I would ask. But I had decided that at every event, I'm going to push myself to ask a question. And so I was practicing that. And I remember feeling so scared to, when there was this question time, I would already think about what question can I ask. And then I was sometimes in a big event, in a big stadium, the microphone being passed over, and I was asking my question. And I was in my early 30s. And for me, that was really like out of my comfort zone, felt very scary. And I was practicing it because it's also a bit like a muscle. If we keep doing it, we get better at it. So sometimes we have to just take ourselves out of our comfort zone and do the thing that feels really scary. So that then led me to actually volunteer to speak at an event. And I was very scared of public speaking. And it was literally just coming out of my comfort zone that helped me take this decision. So there was this event series that was for women who are working in the digital industries in London called She Says. And they had great networking events for women in my industry and also beautiful talks with inspiring women. And there was one event where they wanted to invite volunteers. It was around Halloween, and the theme was horror stories. So anything that happened that was like terrible and what we learned from it, a lesson that we learned. And I thought, horror stories, what shall I talk about? Actually, it's Halloween. I want to talk about fear. So I already back then had this idea to actually, how about if we address fear? We all have fear. It's part of being human, but how fear can hold us back and how we can work with it. And so for me, just doing this talk was really dancing with my fear. It was very scary for me. And I did my best. I researched really well. I had a personal development book that I was really inspired by. So I took a lot of notes. I took a lot of research and quotes. And my talk went really well. And what stood out for me, so there were all these women across the board, different ages, working in the industries. And I was also guiding them through a practice where they had to take a piece of paper. So I was giving them all a piece of paper, and they had to reflect on one thing that they are really scared of doing, but that they would actually love to do. They would really move their life forward, maybe in their career. Like, what is it that they would love to do, but they're actually also really scared of doing it? So then the practice was, and you can actually also do that with me now, or take some time afterwards and do this for yourself. So the first question is, what would you love to do, but you're really scared of doing in your business? And then the second question is, what is the worst thing that could happen? What is the worst thing that could happen? So allow your mind to go there. Like, what is the, downward spiral? Because often we have a kind of a story, and fear is trying to tell us and create the worst case scenario. So let's say the worst thing that could happen is that the business would fail, I can't pay my rent, and I'm gonna have to sleep under the bridge. I lose everything, right? So allow yourself to go down the rabbit hole of what this worst case scenario is. And just being with that and breathing with this is already very powerful. So we can look at that. Then we can look at what is the best thing that could happen? What would actually happen if you did that? What would be the best possible outcome? And usually that's very exciting. Maybe there's a massive opportunity for you, but you need to take action towards it. And then the next question is, how likely is this worst case scenario to happen? So if you really think about it, it's first of all unlikely that you will really not be able to pay the rent or be evicted from your house or whatever. And even then, you will probably not be on the street. Someone will help you. Maybe you can stay with a friend. So just think about how likely would it be that you really end up under the bridge, right? And often this is what fear is telling us. It's telling us don't even go there because the situation will go completely out of hand. So that's why we want to create a little bit of balance and say, is that really likely to happen? And what are the advantages? And often what is actually likely to happen is, let's say you make a call to speak with this new client, to offer something to your new client. And the worst thing that could happen is that the client says, no, thank you. Actually, I don't need that right now. So the worst thing and the most likely thing is often the same situation that you're already in right now. So there's actually nothing to be afraid of because you're already experiencing it right now. It would be just, no, okay. So that is really, really powerful to do because fear is often a mind game. And if we don't question it, it's very sneaky. It's in the background really impacting our decisions. So don't give your power away to the fear. So the beautiful thing I wanted to say about this talk that I gave then, facing my own fear, was that the feedback I received was really beautiful. So I was so happy. The women were really lit up and they had breakthroughs. I didn't expect it. I think I was just actually doing it for myself to encounter my own fear, but it was very impactful for them. And I remember what they said in the end of this talk. They said to me, you should become an inspirational speaker. And I was like, what's an inspirational speaker? I don't know what that is. I'm a designer. I have nothing to do with that. I was just doing this talk. But who knew back then that my journey in life has taken me to be much more in the spotlight, right? To create this podcast, to speak on stage, to coach and work with my clients. And it's actually something I enjoy now. It's still a little bit scary, so that doesn't go away. But I have learned to dance with the fear. And actually, I like to also turn it into excitement because fear and excitement, they're also on the same spectrum, right? So you can use that as well. So David said back then, become an inspirational speaker. Here we are. And another very beautiful thing was that a friend of mine who was also at this event, she actually told me 1 year later, this piece of paper from your talk back then, I'm still carrying it in my handbag because it really had such a powerful effect on me. And I think that just blew my mind because it was beyond anything I could have ever even imagined. So that brings us back to, our role as conscious leaders, because you never know what impact you can make on other people's lives. And often we need to rise to the occasion. Few of us are born being ready to be a leader. It is the work and is the continuous showing up and acting in the face of fear. And so to wrap this up with a powerful new start with this eclipse in Aries, take a look at your business or maybe at your personal life and ask yourself, where is fear holding you back? Sit a little bit with this question because often it's not so obvious. It's just in the background. It's not even in your conscious awareness. And something I work with with my clients that I feel is very important on this journey of being a conscious entrepreneur is that instead of taking massive action and doing all the things, which actually also often comes from a place of fear, right? Because why would you do everything? It's about taking aligned action. So you do the right thing at the right time. And often doing this one thing can really move the needle in your business. That would be like a quantum leap. One collaboration, one client could make all the difference to put you into a completely new level, right? But often the action we need to take to do that can feel really scary and really out of our comfort zone. Maybe it is picking up the phone and making a phone call that is really, can I avoid it? Maybe you are avoiding something else. Maybe it's a difficult conversation with someone in your team. Maybe it is having a proper finance check and sitting together with your accountant. Whatever it is, actually one of my first coaches called it the frog. She said, eat the frog. Do it first thing in the morning. Don't procrastinate on the one thing that you are avoiding. Just go and do it. So identify what is the frog that you need to eat and then get it out of the way. Because what happens is that it can really weigh us down. It can create a heaviness. It can drain our motivation. And it can make us feel really stuck. So which conversation do you need to have? Which phone call do you need to make? What is the one powerful action you need to do? And then go and take the initiative. These big, courageous moves can, of course, also be financial decisions. And they are often the ones who are very scary. So for me, also, for example, investing into the right support and into the right mentorship has sometimes, when I actually put my credit card and I made the payment, it was a significant payment. I couldn't sleep for, I think, 3 days, even though I knew it was the right thing. It was going to support me. It was going to help me to grow my business. I was going to make the investment back. But as you know, as entrepreneurs, maybe you have to sign a lease. Maybe you invest into mentorship. Maybe you hire a team. We have to make a lot of decisions that can be really scary or risky. And I would say that is also part of this path of entrepreneurship, right? People who don't love risks and really want their security, maybe this path is not for them and they prefer to stay in a 9-to-5 job for that reason, for this perceived safety. I would say, in my experience, entrepreneurs have a higher tolerance for risk, and we are also action takers. And these two are also muscles that we need to train. In business, the truth is also you need to take action. You can't think your way to an amazing life. You can't think your way to your dream business. Yes, there are certain strategic steps we want to be very clear about, but then it's about going out and taking action. So go do the thing. It's about taking the sometimes messy, imperfect action with courage, one step at a time. I hope this episode inspired you. Please share with me any insights you had and go out there and share your magic. Thank you for listening to the Moon Tribe podcast with me, Simona Shimanovic. I'd love to share my free abundance meditation with you. Go to simonashimanovic.com and join the tribe.